After Irene, you pay. But Ron Paul says you better not, we better not. The presidential candidate loud and clear. The government and the big disaster relief business is bad and now bust. Congressman, good to have you. So you're saying this whole FEMA thing is something that was manufactured and gotten bigger than it's worth?
Yeah, I think it was very misleading. It's always like a government program. They promise to do wonderful things. But the whole principle of FEMA and the flood insurance program is deeply flawed because it's enticing people to build in areas that the market is saying is unsafe and the insurance is too expensive. So it's a type of a welfare program where people go in, they can't afford it, and then the government goes in debt, bailing everybody up and cleaning it up. But the worst part is, the bureaucracy of it all, the central economic planning and the control that they have land later on that bothers me. Governors can take care of these kind of problems. If we would allow it to be that they kept these National Guard units in their state where they could use them if they needed some emergency help.
But what if the states are broke? Haven't we fostered a sort of a weaning process here for governors to have to hit up the government, the federal government that is, for money?
Yeah, but where does the government get the money? The federal government's broke, too. They don't have any money in the bank, and we're $14 trillion in debt. But now the one thing that I have done, and since I have a coastal district and I have Galveston, when this issue comes up, I'll say, yeah, I'll vote for the funding if you take it from someplace and save enough where you can cut the deficit. I'd save some program from spending overseas of $1 billion, put half of it toward the deficit and put $500 million into one of these programs like this. But you just can't keep spending. This is the problem. It's always, nobody can deny it.
Well, that's where you look, fairly or not. I know what you're saying, Congressman, but much as I was telling Governor Johnson, that's where you then, he's heartless. Look at all this suffering. Look at all these folks who are hurting, and some of them in areas that normally don't get hurricanes, so there was no way to prepare for this, so we've got to help them out. What say you?
Well, what I say is if you continue to do what we're doing, the suffering is going to be much, much worse.
How so? How so?
Because we won't have any money, and we'll just print the money. It'll lose its value. You'll have runaway inflation, and even the people on Social Security, they'll get checks, but their standard of living will go down. It's already started. And the economic consequences of a currency crisis is much worse than people dealing with these problems at a local level. But the bureaucratic method of doing this at the federal level is just not the way to go. I had more complaints about FEMA in my district than all the other agencies of government put together.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
I mean, just think of all the stories told about what went on in New Orleans, with
oh, no, you're right, Congressman Joe. But could I ask something that I was raising to Governor Johnson? Because you've been a victim of this to a lesser extent, obviously, but this who's invited, who's not invited to a debate. He's not invited this next one, you are, but no one takes you seriously, even though you register quite well in the polls. You've been on this show many, many times. People love you. And I have this theory that people just sort of marginalize if you're not in the top 2 or 3, and then you get in the top 3, and they say, well, we're talking about the top 2, not the top 3. So there's no way for you to win. And now I had a theory on the hair thing, which could apply to you, but another theory is that they've run out of podiums. There's only so many podiums. What the hell is it?
Well, you can't. I guess you can't have a debate with 25. And if you had everybody that signed up to run, then you have to do something about it. But I heard your little comments with Gary a few minutes ago, and I don't think you added, but you could have added. He was a governor for 8 years.
Absolutely. and I'm saying it's not as if we have 50 people running. I mean, you could put all of you in like our conference room. I mean, there are a lot of you, but there aren't so many that it would be unwieldy. And I'm saying that if given the chance, when people hear you out there actually intrigued by what you have to say, people hear Governor Johnson out there intrigued by what you have to say, I'm not here to say either one of you should be president. I am here to say that you should have your day in the proverbial court where people can get to hear you and not be blocked hearing you.
Yeah, and I like the interviews like you do much better because, the debates, I don't know how much they accomplish. I guess they accomplish something, but there has to be a better way. My personal desires are to have more interviews where I'm allowed to answer the questions and people get to know us, and they should make sure that all the candidates get those interviews.
Yeah, but when they're blocked, it's not fair. It's not right to you.
Right.
You just created a groundswell. The governor might be able to do that, but it's a sad way to go that you have to create your own momentum, is what I'm saying. And,
Yeah.
and I mean, if we had this sort of such structure at the time of Abraham Lincoln, we'd never gotten Abraham Lincoln, you know?
He probably wouldn't have made it.
No, no. Congressman, it's always good having you on. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Neil.
All right, we got a lot more ahead.